Is Mike Wolfe no longer going to be on American Pickers? He said he was just taking a break, but it looks like his shocking choice has more to it than that. Is it about money, a crime that no one knows about, or something much worse? That's what we're going to do today. The truth could change the way you always watch the show. Could Mike Wolfe want a break from the show because he wants to make more money? Pickers are people who travel all over the United States looking for rare antiques they call rusty gold to buy. He has been doing this job for almost 40 years. There are two old archaeology shops owned by Wolfe. One is in LeClaire, Iowa, and the other is in Nashville, Tennessee. Other items from his Antique Archaeology name are also sold in these shops. Based on what people want to buy, an item in his shops could cost anywhere from $18 to $900. Some users have said that Wolfe's shops have prices that are too high for some people to stomach. They want to know why something like an old cat food sign costs up to $900. Some reviews have said that the store does have some truly unique things, but that there aren't many to choose from. Even these reviews didn't like the prices. But despite all of these complaints and attacks, both of his shops are doing very well. As of 2023, one of them was said to have made $93,000 a year. The Experience Business Valuation Report says that the store has a low-risk credit score because it pays its bills on time. Mike has done very well with his show American Pickers in addition to the money he makes from his shops. Did you know that the show almost didn't happen? Mike didn't even start out as a picker. Mike was born in Joliet, Illinois, and is the second of 3 children raised by a single mother. He has been interested in it since he was 4 years old. While he was younger, Mike liked to keep himself busy by fixing up old bikes that his neighbors threw away. Mike could have used that to become a professional picker, but he didn't. He did something else. He thought that racing bikes would be a good career, so he started racing bikes. Mike was very interested in business, so he chose to turn his love of bikes into a business and open 2 bike shops. But Mike finally figured out what was missing: the thrill and excitement of picking. In the end, he chose to become a picker because of the exciting life they live. He started to pick up and was getting better. He was happy driving his cargo van about 60,000 miles a year across the country in search of old rare things. After a few years of this, he had an idea. Mike saw a business chance that could help him make more money and get more attention. He thought about a show that would be about his finds and was sure it would be a sensation. When Mike got ideas, he took them to different companies, but they turned them down. He didn't give up though and kept coming up with new ideas. He told the History Channel about it, and they said yes instead of no. They thought the show could be good, and in 2010, the first episode aired. That episode did better than anyone thought it would. It went over 3.1 million people watched the first show, which was the most popular premiere from 2007 to 2010. That was just the start. About 5 years had passed by the end of the first season. Every week 4 million people between the ages of 25 and 54 watched him work with his trusty partner, the fat and hairy Frank Fritz, and his close friend Danielle Colby at Mike's vintage shop, Vintage Archaeology. Colby was Mike's best friend for 10 years before Mike even thought of the idea for the show. Because of how well they got along, having her on the show was very important. This show had a lot of watchers, making it the most popular new non-fiction show on cable TV in 2010. Over the years, Mike had grown used to living a secret life. Now he is the newest American TV star. There were still loyal fans of the show, and Mike made a steady $500,000 per season, or about $25,000 per episode. That cash is very large. There are 389 shows and 26 seasons so far. You can guess how much money Mike has made over the years. Mike put this money into his shops that we talked about earlier. He also bought 13 homes and started other businesses, such as repairs, where he turns old light fixtures and parts of old lighting into useful one-of-a-kind furniture for homes or offices. A book called American Picker's Guide to Picking came out in 2011, and another book called Kid Pickers came out in 2013. All of these things made Mike money, but he lost about $6 million. What took place? Is this why Mike's break from the show? Mike cares about more than just money. Kid Pickers is an online group that Mike made so that kids ages 7 to 13 can share their own picks. Besides that, he often puts on charity events and supports projects that raise money for St. Jude's Children's Hospital, Operation Smile, the ASPCA, and animal rescues. A lot of people think Mike is a great person who always puts others first, but someone thinks Mike is on their own. Mike is very nice, but not all of his relationships have ended well. She gave birth to their daughter Charlie a year after they got married, on September 7, 2012. However, they split up in June 2020 after being married for 8 years. As part of the divorce deal, she asked for a divorce in 2021. Mike had to pay her over $6 million. Although this event is bad for Mike, it's not the reason he's taking a break. His relationship with his wife will not be the last one like this. Michael might be taking a break from the show because of his next big fight. In total, Mike has been on this show for about 15 years and 26 seasons. He did the show with Frank Fritz, who was also one of his co-stars, until 2020. They drove across America in either a Mercedes-Benz Sprinter van or a Ford Transit. The show was always interesting because they were interesting and dynamic. Mike really loves old motorbikes, Volkswagens with air conditioning, bicycles, and penny farthings. On the other hand, Fritz liked old toys, oil cans, Hondas, and things that had to do with peanuts. They found the old things they needed in people's homes, barns, sheds, basements, garages, and other places where people keep old things and treasures. They went to see serious and hobby collectors, hoarders, and people who had received a lot of stuff they didn't know what to do with. Each of them had their own way of making money off of what they found. Frank Fritz sold the same things on his website and in his store Frank Fritz Finds in Savannah, Illinois. Mike sold the same things in his store. What they did worked, both of them were cute, and Frank knew that Mike would always be the star, even though he did most of the work. Mike was always ready to bend down and carry anything they found. They used to have chemistry, but it's gone for good. Frank died on October 1, 2024. He had a stroke in July 2022 and was hospitalized for a while. As Frank was having his stroke, Mike told his fans to pray for him and said that he was doing the same. Sad to say, Frank died 2 years after the stroke from what doctors called the long-term effects of the stroke. That was a beautiful tribute Mike wrote for Frank. He talked about how they had been through a lot of things together. Mike liked Frank because he was a real guy, and in front of the camera he was the same as he was off camera. Next, Mike said that he was proud to have been in the show with Frank and that he would miss Frank. We'll get to why not many fans think Mike's speech was real soon. That being said, Mike didn't say he was leaving the show until 6 months after Frank's death. Could it be that he really missed Frank? However, if this were true, then why did Mike choose his younger brother Rob Wolfe instead of Frank? Also, why didn't Mike tell everyone about the break when Frank died? But it wasn't Frank's death or stroke that made him leave the show, was it? Frank was constantly lifting things, which caused him to have terrible back pain that he had to deal with for months before he finally had surgery. Before the surgery, Frank filmed some episodes. In March 2020, after the episodes he was in finished, Frank was no longer on the show. Frank had just had surgery, which was Mike's reason at the time. Fans began to wonder where Frank was and when he would be back on the show when he wasn't there for as long as they thought he would be. But they didn't get a clear answer until Mike told them in 2021 that Frank had quit the show. Frank, on the other hand, had a different story. He shocked everyone by saying that he wasn't kicked off the show, but rather was pushed out of it. Then, to make things even stranger, Frank said that Mike had something to do with him being kicked off the show. What could have caused this? Why would Mike make sure that Frank didn't get a call back from the network? Frank said he didn't talk to Mike for 2 years, even after Mike had surgery. Mike did not even bother to see how he was. Frank didn't say much, but he hinted that Mike wasn't happy with how famous Frank was becoming on the show. It looked like Mike had a problem with Frank, even though the show put Mike in the spotlight. When Frank lost weight, it seemed like he was coming from Mike's top slot. Does Mike really think Frank is going to remove him from power, or is there something more going on? Frank told them that things weren't as they seemed, and that the show was very tense. Mike quickly replied that he doesn't want to clear the air about his friendship with Frank and is only interested in praying for Frank's recovery. When asked if what Frank said was true in 2021, fans still thought that Mike kicked Frank off the show because his answer didn't address the problem. But it didn't change how many people watched the show. Even though things had changed, fans still stuck with the show. Now Danielle Colby, Rob and Jersey John Slee, an expert on old things, take turns going on trips with Mike to find new things. They would sometimes go on their own trips while Mike was on his. Being like this wasn't something a man who wanted attention for himself would put up with. All fans were excited about this new take on the show's idea and couldn't wait to see what Mike would find and whether he would be going to a new place or an old one. In 2023, though, it was clear that Mike missed having Frank on the show. Mike went to see Frank after he had the stroke, and while he was still getting better, at the time, Frank had a new chance to come back to the show, but his health wouldn't let him. Fans will never again be able to see Frank and Mike together on TV. Mike doesn't want to take a break because Frank died, so what is the real reason he wants to? It's possible that Mike is getting married again and wants to take the time to get ready. As of August 2021, Mike was in a public relationship with LeClaire. This was after he and his ex-wife Jody split up in 2020 and later got a divorce in 2021. From then on they've been together, but their relationship isn't quite the norm. They don't live together, they both have a lot going on. And Letitia has said she needed some space too. Right now they don't have any plans to live together. They do live 2 hours apart though. You can find Letitia in Cave City, Kentucky, where she owns and runs a popular coffee shop called Ace Coffee. Mike lives in Lippers Fork, Tennessee. Even though they live far apart, they are always together and do things together. They've done things for tourists in different parts of the country. They've also made an ad for Harley Davidson together. Letitia hasn't been on American Pickers at all, so I guess they don't always do things together. Besides that, they do share one more trait: they don't want to get married just yet. They were asked if they were going to get engaged while they were on the red carpet for the opening of their new movie Day of Reckoning. They made it clear that they wouldn't be getting engaged anytime soon. Their long-distance relationship is good for them, and they say they're having fun right now. Are they going to change their mind soon? It's possible or not. It will be interesting to see. Mike has been on the show for 15 years, so why is he taking a break? It's not because he is getting married or engaged. Because Mike did well on American Pickers, he has gone on to do well in other areas as well. One of those is History's Greatest Picks with Mike Wolfe, his new show that starts soon. At this point, the History Channel has approved this show for a season. The show would follow Mike as he seeks out famous historical gems, relics, and items and shares their stories and worth. Mike will be the tour guide who helps people learn about strange objects, rare collectibles, and the meanings and secrets of hard-to-find items. Mike will be bringing history to life in a way. This show is like American Pickers, but it's about a lot more people. Mike might be going on a trip abroad. There are still some things we don't know about the show, but Mike is excited to do it and sees it as a chance to try something new. Why is Mike taking a break from American Pickers? He has been on the show for 15 years and has been picking for over 30 years. Picking for a living, Mike wants to try something new. A close friend of his, director Sean Silva, who knew how much he loved motorbikes, asked him to play a part in the movie Day of Reckoning that involved Mike riding a bike. This made him want to make a change. At first Mike didn't want to do anything because he was happy being the main character on American Pickers. He had a lot of worries about whether he could do his part, even though he didn't have many words. One might think that his years of being in front of the camera and exploring new areas in search of new picks would have made him ready, but Mike wasn't sure. Even though the role was different from what Mike was used to, he decided to do it anyway, and he was right. Mike found it exciting because he got to work with Billy Zane, who he said taught him how to play his part well. Do you think Mike would make a great actor? Would he get even more parts to talk? Mike was blown away by his friend Sean's lively energy. Based on what he saw, Mike is now open to more chances in Hollywood. Mike isn't just interested in Hollywood, he's open to anything new. It's normal for Mike to need a break from American Pickers after so long. However, what if Mike decides that he no longer wants to return to the show that he has built up over the years while trying new things? What does this mean for his other co-stars? Would they keep the show going without him, or would they move on to something else? It's great that Mike has found new things he enjoys, but fans should be ready for the fact that their favorite TV star might be looking at a whole new direction. Mike may have already chosen his last thing.